are you doing in my swamp? What are you doing in my swamp?
Hello everybody, this is Ogre Boy, and I'm going to be doing my review for the 2003 movie Peter Pan. The movie is directed by P.J. Hogan and written by him and Michael Goldenberg, and this movie follows the classic story of Peter Pan, the boy who never wanted to grow up, as he takes three kids to Neverland with him, Wendy, John, and Michael, and they go to Neverland where they have all kinds of different adventures and have to fight Captain Hook. This is a really underrated version of this story. There have been many versions, probably the most popular one being the 1953 Disney animated classic. But this is a 2003 version that came out when I was 11 years old. I actually got to see this one in the theaters a couple times, and this was one of my favorite movies back when it first came out. I just absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite movies of that year, and I feel like this movie is really underrated. I think part of the reason why it went under the radar so much is people weren't really that interested in another Peter Pan movie at that time, and I think a lot of it also has to do with the time that the movie was released. It was released, I think, on Christmas Day that year, and it was heavy competition with Cheaper by the Dozen and The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King, which are both also movies that I absolutely love, so I can understand why those movies did so good. But I feel like this movie just was really underrated. It's such a good movie. The casts in here are all perfect. Jeremy Sumpter plays Peter Pan, and he embodies the character really well. He's just perfect in the role. Rachel Hurd-Wood plays Wendy, and she's amazing too. She fits the role perfectly, and the two of them have amazing chemistry, and both are really great. But I think that she's actually a little bit better. Rachel Hurd-Wood, I think she was a little bit better in this movie than Jeremy Sumpter, but both of them were amazing and have great chemistry. John is played by Harry Newell, and he does a decent job. And Freddie Popwell plays Michael, and he does a good job too. They work good enough in this movie. They're not like the best actors, but they were good enough. Of course, Captain Hook is played by Jason Isaacs, who is a really underrated actor. He played Lucius Malfoy in the Harry Potter franchise. He was in The Villain and The Patriot. I can't remember the character's name in that movie, but he absolutely hated his character in that movie, but his performance was amazing in The Patriot. And this one, he's absolutely amazing in too. He plays Captain Hook and George Darling, which is kind of a popular thing for the versions of Peter Pan, like in the play and the other movie versions. The one who plays Captain Hook usually plays George Darling too, so I thought that was cool that they kept that tradition in here, and I thought he was amazing too. Olivia Williams plays Mary Darling, and she's really good. She didn't really have a lot to do in here, but she fits the role well enough. And Lou Divine Zagnier, I probably butchered her name, plays Tinkerbell, and she's pretty good too, but she has this annoying little gibberish talk that she does instead of just making her have like little bell noises and stuff like they did in the cartoon and the original play. They make her talk in gibberish, kind of remind me of the Minions, kind of. But she was good enough as a character. It's just the talking and stuff that was annoying. And then Lynn Redgrave plays Aunt Millicent, who is a character that was created specifically for this movie. She wasn't in the play of Peter Pan or anything, but she's a likable character, and Lynn Redgrave does a really good job playing her. Now, all the kids who do play the Lost Boys are really good too, and Richard Briers plays Mr. Smee, and he's really good too. There's a few parts where he kind of breaks the fourth wall and looks at the camera and says stuff when Captain Hook is in danger. And there's like a part where Wendy's telling a story and Captain Hook shoots a couple of guys who are trying to interrupt the story. It's like a really funny scene. And it's like, man, this is getting good. There's 2 men dead already. But he's just hilarious too. The visual effects in here, to me, they hold up really well. I know a lot of people probably would say that they're dated because there's a lot of green screen effects from like when they're flying and stuff, but to me it still looks really good. It don't really bother me. Maybe it's because I've seen this movie so many times over the last however many years since this movie came out. That could be why too. But I think the visual effects are pretty good. They also balance them out though. There is quite a bit of CGI, but they balance out with some really good practical effects too, like in action set pieces, like the Captain Hook ship and like the little castle cave thing that they go into when that the mermaids send them to when Captain Hook captures John and Michael and Tiger Lily. But the only really bad CGI is really the crocodile, and he can be overlooked because he's not in the movie enough to really run it. But this crocodile hasn't aged very well. But all in all, I think that Peter Pan is a really good movie, and also James Newton Howard. I always call him John Newton Howard. I don't know why. James Newton Howard does the score for this movie, and his score is absolutely amazing. It fits the tone of this movie perfectly. It has this magical feel to it, and he just does a really, really good job on the score. At times it feels epic, and it makes the movie feel a lot bigger than it is and everything. So but I'd say I'd give Peter Pan a 9 out of 10. It's definitely one of my favorite movies from my childhood. It still holds up really, really well. The performances and story and most of the visual effects and stuff are still really good, and it's just a really great movie. I definitely would recommend it if you haven't seen it and everything. So let me know in the comments what you think of Peter Pan from 2003, and I hope you enjoy this video, and have a good day, everybody.